Proving identities. How to prove that the left hand side is equal to the right side. This is called identity. Identity means equal for any value for x. If you substitute x, let's say by 30, left hand side, sine 30, cosine 30, cotan 30, and get the value. And substitute by 30 to the right side, cosec 30, you will get left hand side is equal to the right side. If we change 30 to be 50, substitute by 50, left hand side and right side will be same. What is the difference between identity and the equation? Equation maybe have one solution or two or three or four. There is a specific number for a solution. But identity, it's correct for any value. This is the difference between identity and the equation. So this sign, it's called identity, but we can write it like equal, it's okay, right? How to prove that left hand side is equal to right side? We studied how to prove left hand side, right side in AS level. Do you remember? Yes. But the difference between questions for AS level and the A2 level, in AS level, it was what? How many identities do we have? Only two. In AS level, just only tan and sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1. Do you remember this year till now how many identities? 8. Started from sine and the reciprocal, their product equals a 1. Sine times cosec equals 1. If we have cosec, remove it and write 1 over sine. If we have cosec squared, remove it and write 1 over sine squared. Cosine reciprocal is sec. So if we have sec, remove it and write what? 1 over sine. If we have sec squared, remove it and write 1 over cosine squared. Tan, sine over cosine. Cotan, cosine over sine. Sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to, طب يلا, we'll write it them all again. Number 1. If we have, say, cotan x, remove it and write what? 1 over tan x. Number 2, if we have sec x, remove it and write what? 1 over cosine x. If we have cosec x, 1 over sine x. Number 4 and 5, tan and cotan. Tan x equals sine x over cosine x. Type cotan x equals cosine x over sine x. Number 5. Number 6, 7 and 8 squared. The first one is sine squared x plus cosine squared x equals 1. Number 2, 1 plus tan squared x equals what? Sec squared x. Number 3, 1 plus cotan squared x is equal to cosec squared x. So please, when you have any question related with identities or equations, write them all. Let's start now to prove left equals right. My advice is start with the big term. But you can start from right side and prove it is equal to the right side, or left side is start right side. Identity. 3 lines, these 3 lines, مش 4. Identity. How to prove the left hand side is equal to the right side. We have 5 ways to prove identity. You can start with left and prove that is equal to the right. You can start with right and prove that is equal to the left. You can start with both together. Start with left and right and get both same expression. Inshallah, we can divide it left by right and prove that is equal to 1. If you prove left over right equals 1, you are right. You can prove left minus right is equal to 0. But today, inshallah, we'll discuss only the first or second case. I will start with left and prove that is equal to the right. Or start with right and prove that is equal to the left. It's very hard to start with the right side. How to start with cosec x and split it into sine x plus cosine x plus cotan x. So I prefer to use the big one, which was left-hand side. If you start with left-hand side, all trigonometric functions, you can shift it, transfer it to sine and cosine. If you have tan, remove it, sine over cosine. If you have cotan, remove it, cosine over sine. If you have sec, 1 over cosine. If you have cosec, 1 over sine. So now, all of you please start with the left-hand side. Left-hand side equal. We can remove what and replace it with what? Remove cotan. So keep sine x plus cosine x. Cotan is cosine x over sine x. This is the first step. Remove cotan and write cosine over sine. Next step. Sine x plus. This is, you can write it as a fraction, cosine x over 1. So cosine times cosine. Cosine squared x divided by what? Sine x. The next step. If you have two fractions, try to get it a single fraction. If you have two fractions, write it as a single fraction. The common denominator will be what? Sine x cross will be sine squared x plus cosine squared x, which you can remove it and write 1. 1 over sine is equal to cosec x, which is in the right hand side. You cannot, again, when we try to prove identity, if we try to solve about 10 questions for identity, you will get about 10 points. Number 1, from this question, if you have tan, remove it, cosine, sine over cosine. If you have cotan, remove it and write cosine over sine. This is number 1. Yes, we have more. Number 2, if you have two fractions, find it as a single fraction. Number 3, when you have sine squared plus cosine squared, remove it and write what? 1. We explained 3 points in the first question. Again, start with the big side. Start to convert all trigonometric to be sine and cosine. Because if you have tan, sine over cosine. If you have cotan, cosine over sine. If you have sec, 1 over cosine. If you have cosec, 1 over sine. If you have two fractions, write it as a single fraction. Maybe I have sine squared plus cosine squared, remove it and write 1. 1 over sine, it's a cosec. But each time when you start with left-hand side, each time look at the right side. I need to get what? I need to get cosec. So I need to get 1 over sine. See, step number 1, remove cotan, cosine over sine. Step 2, if you have two fractions, write it as a single fraction. If you have sine squared plus cosine squared is equal to 1. If you have any question, you can ask. If it is not, be ready for part B. Yes.
When will you learn about the 30, 60, 95?
Part B. I will give you 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Try to start with left-hand side. All of you start with left-hand side. Left-hand side. Can you tell me any step if you can do it?
Yes.
Remove what? Yalla, please. 1 over sine x. I tell you, if you have two fractions, you have to make it 1. Yalla, please. Write it as a single fraction. The denominator will be what? And the cross will be 1 minus sine squared x. If you have 1 minus sine squared, you can write what? Cosine squared from the same identity. Try to be flexible. If you have sine squared plus cosine squared, remove it 1. If you have 1 minus sine squared, get cosine squared. So remove 1 minus sine squared and get cosine squared x divided by sine x.
Oh, yes.
Look at the right side. Look at the right side. You want it to be a product, multiplication, split. Huh?
Sir, we split the cosine into cosine x multiplied by cosine x.
Cosine x and cosine x over sine x and 1.
I will put that.
Cosine x over sine x is what? Cotan. And the cosine x, keep it. So the final answer, cosine x cotan x. This is what? The right hand side. Again, how to prove identity? I prefer to start with the big side, left hand side, left hand side. Cosec, remove it, 1 over sine. You have two fractions, find a single fraction. 1 minus sine squared will be cosine squared. Now look at the right side. I need to get what? Cotan. So I need to get cosine over sine. So cosine squared, split it into cosine and cosine. Take cosine over sine will be cotan and keep cosine x. Now I will give you part C and wait 3 minutes. If you solve it, raise your hand. Question part C. Yalla, all of you please start with the left hand side. Start with the left hand side. As I told you, we have sec. Remove it and write what? Cosec. Remove it and write what? Cotan. Cosine over sine. Then we have two fractions. Find it as a single fraction. If you finish this, you have cosec reciprocal of sine. C with S. C with S. So if we have sec, will be cosine. If we have sine, will be cosec. Tan and cotan both include letter T. So tan, cotan is both. If you finish this, your hand. Left hand side. Remove second, write what? 1 over cosine x. Cosec, remove it and write what? 1 over sine x. Cotan is cosine x over sine x. You are right if you write 1 over tan. But if you change them all to be sine and cosine will be more easier. Cosine over sine x. Now, the common denominator will be what? This is sine cosine. This is sine only. So we need to be sine cosine. So multiply the second fraction by what? By cosine. So sine x, cosine x, shift, cross, multiply the first one, keep it 1, multiply by cosine will be, sorry, multiply by cosine will be cosine what? Cosine squared x. 1 minus cosine squared x will be sine. So sine squared x divided by sine x and cosine x. Then look at the right side. Split sine squared and write it sine over sine cosine. Sine over cosine. Sine over cosine will be what? Which will be on the right side. It's not only one way to solve this question. Anyone get another solution? Anyone get another solution? At 10? You want to start and write 1 over 10? Then you will remove 1 over 10 and write what? Reciprocal of 1 over 10. Cosine over sine. So from the first step. Be ready for part D. Part D. Yalla start. Part D. Yes. Start to do any step. 1 plus sec, you can remove sec and write 1 over cosine. Cosec, you can remove it and write 1 over sine. Cotan, you can remove it and write cosine over sine. You have two brackets. Expand, simplify. You will get the right side. Waiting 3 minutes. Start with left hand side. 1 plus. Remove sec and write what? 1 over cosine. Remove cosec and write what? 1 over sine. Cotan is cosine over sine. You can expand and simplify first, or you can get the first bracket as a single fraction, second one as a single fraction, and find their product. You can expand 1 times the first, 1 over sine x, 1 times minus cosine x over sine x, times 1 over sine x cosine x, times cosine x over sine x times cosine x. Step clear? There are two terms are same, one positive, one negative. Which of these? في forget هنا 1 times. طيب, the common denominator will be what? Sin x cosine x. Sin x cosine x. So the first one, multiply it by what? By cosine. Second one, multiply by cosine, will be cosine squared. Same will be 1. Same will be cosine x. There are 1 positive, 1 negative. Remove it. 1 minus cosine squared, sine squared x, divided by sine x cosine x. Split cosine sine squared x into sine x divided by sine x cosine x. Remove sine over cosine will be tan. He asked to prove that will be tan.
I have a question again.
So, yes.
Over here. You can just cancel these out and then cancel these.
Yes, sure. We can remove cosine with cosine. This is what I'm searching for, one positive, one negative. Remove it, then find the common denominator for this part correct. السكند بارت في الفاينل اكزام بيكون الفيرست بارت يعني identity، السكند بارت بيكون equation. Today ان شاء الله we'll discuss only identities. Prove that. يلا شباب. Prove part A. Prove left hand side to be right side. Waiting 3 minutes. If you finish, raise your hand. طب يلا. Yeah, good. 1 over tan is sine x over cosine x plus cotan is cosine x over sine x. Good. If we have two fractions, will be single fraction, will be sine x cosine x, cross will be sine squared x cosine squared x, which will be what? 1. So 1 over sine x, reciprocal division. When we 1 divided by 1 divided by sine x cosine x, a division will be multiplication and find the reciprocal. Good. So the answer will be sine x cosine x. Is it on the right side? Yes. Done.
I'm confused on like fractional values. Can you explain it a bit more?
When I say 1, divided by 1 over sine x cosine x, when I write it like this, division will be multiplication, and find the reciprocal will be sine x cosine x over 1. So it will be same answer. Yalla, please show that the left hand side is equal to the right side. I will tell you. Yalla, only أول step, the first step. First step. 1 over cosine squared x plus sec 1 over cosine x tan sine x over cosine x. What is the common denominator? It's already common. 1 plus sine x. Now, try to look at the right side. The right side included 1 minus sine x. How come? How can I get 1 minus sine x? First, cosine squared is cosine squared 1 minus sine squared, right? Factorize it as a difference between two squares. Will be 1 plus sine x divided by difference between two squares, 1 times 1 sine x, 1 positive, 1 negative, remove. So the answer is 1 over 1 minus sine x. One minute left يا حبيبي. وانا عملت